I think it was after, I can't remember exactly when it was. It was either 2017 or 2018. And Nigel Farage described Remainers as fruitcakes and what people with the screw loose. I can't remember exact what his quote was now, but he described Remainers as basically fruitcakes. And he said that the idea of the UK ever rejoining the European Union was complete nonsense. Now, most of you will know and understand that back in 2016, if you were watching very much the referendum, it became insane, to be honest. And you look at Leave's position, what it was, and it wasn't a narrow position. It was not in any way, shape, or form the Brexit that we ended up having now. That was not on the table. What was on the table and what was sold to the British public was that we would leave the EU, but we would leave the political side of the EU so that we could have our sovereignty and take back control. But when it came to, of course, the economic side of the EU, and of course, for those of you who've watched this channel any amount of time know exactly the quote that's coming, was, of course, the infamous Daniel Hannan quote of only a fool would leave the single market and customs union. And indeed, that was the Leave's economic position. But lots of people, and depending, even some people will say this, you could go to sort of Sheffield, Leeds, and if you ever met like Leavers, they would tell you drastically different things about it, because they knew that they could not get away with going a hardcore Brexit, which is what all of them desperately wanted. They will deny it, but that was the case in 2016, that it was going to be this large, wide open thing. And many people in the UK voted for various different reasons. Some people voted for reasons of immigration. Some people voted because they didn't want to be part of the EU politically, but wanted to be part of it economically. So, of course, the Leaves version sold it to them. And some people voted basically because they wanted to, well, give David Cameron a black eye. You know, the idea that you could get 5 Leave voters who voted Leave back in 2016 and get them to agree on a position of what Brexit was, or even what the Leave position was, none of them would agree. And I am still very, very much of that opinion that no Leave voters would ever agree. If you got like a swathe of them from up and down the country, none of them would agree. I am adamant to that to this day, that they would not agree what the Leave position conclusively actually was. But we are now seeing, as we always said, the numbers are reversing. People are starting to realize actually leaving the EU was a bad idea, and what was offered at the referendum was not what we ended up getting. So it is no surprise at all that we are seeing the polling numbers reversing big time. So, as always, before we go diving into this, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button down below. And of course, there is the YouTube Pony Club you can join as well. So, on to this. This comes from The Independent with the title of EU referendum has failed to settle the Brexit question, saying polling guru. Polling evidence over the past year suggests that the 2016 Brexit referendum has failed to deliver a permanent settlement to the Brexit debate, polling guru Sir John Curris has said. His comments raised the prospect of a continuing division in the UK over Europe, and with the possibility that the issue will come to dominate future elections or even spark another referendum. While the UK's major political parties, with the exception of the SNP, have all put Brexit issue on the back burner, at least until after the 2024 election, surveys now show that the public does not regard the debate as over. And Professor Curis told the briefing at Westminster that the following brief period in the summer of 2021, when small majorities preferred to stay out of the EU, support for rejoining has grown steadily, and the last polls show a majority of 57 to 43% for reversing Brexit. If you look at YouGov's question, in hindsight, do you think Brexit was the right or wrong decision? They've increasingly been getting more people saying it was the wrong decision, he said. The truth is that Brexit is now probably less popular than it has been at any point since June of 2016. And one of the things we have constantly said about the whole Brexit scenario is that it was going to end up exactly like the Iraq War. You look at the polls prior to the Iraq War, you should be able to walk out in the street and be able to find someone who was in favor of the Iraq War. But as the Iraq War rolled on, as people saw the realities of it, public opinion changed. And now you couldn't find anyone who will say that, yes, they were in favor of the Iraq War. It is going the exact same way. But back to it. Professor Curtis said that he would remain cautious on the question of whether the definitive shifts in the public attitudes has taken place until more polling is done over a period stretching into at least 2023. But he added, my own personal view, for what it's worth, is at the moment it looks like, though the 2016 referendum is going to be as unsuccessful as the 1975 one was in providing a permanent settlement on this debate. We are just, as a country, divided down the middle on this subject, and it looks as though we're going to continue be for the foreseeable future. I can't blame him, to be honest. And you look at the wide variety here. You look at the wide variety. I can guarantee you, one big thing is certainly people going, oh no, I can't retire to Spain anymore. That's a big one, I can guarantee you. Traveling and going on holiday, not as easy as it used to be. You know, you've only got to look at the reports of what is still going on. Airport chaos, trucks still a problem down in Dover, trying to get across the channel, queuing up for the Eurostar. All these have become huge problems for your average sort of voter who, bear in mind, remember at 2016, where they were told by Leave, oh, that's just Project Fear. Don't believe the hype. But the thing is, they've now started to live this reality. And just last summer, really, since 2016 was the first time, obviously the pandemic got in the way, was the first time that Brits were going on holiday and experiencing the realities of that. I always said 2016, they should have, the Remain campaign should have run a disruption to your holiday campaign, Brexit will mean. That would have been very, very effective. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. I think they should have definitely hyped up a lot more of the positivities about sort of remaining in the EU, but it's pointless to sort of refight an old battle now. But it is good to sort of look back and look at where we went wrong, because now we can go back and go, hey, your European holiday is going to be 10 times easier than it is now. Or, hey, you, Mr. Businessman, you and your business that lost 30% of its, trade with Europe. Well, guess what? You can probably get that back. So, yeah, I mean, the economic case was one that was heavily sold at, back in 2016, and it has not proved to be the case. None of the promises of Brexit have even been proved to have come true. So the more that continues, the more people will go, well, nothing, Farage or any of the other Brexiteers said has come true. So what was the point of Brexit? So, as we've always said, our path back to the EU was very, very plainly done. But he is right. The idea of that this 2016 had settled the Brexit question clearly hasn't. The polls always going more and more in that Brexit was a completely, wrong decision. It won't be too long before one of the main parties says, actually Brexit was a bad decision. We've seen Tobias Ellwood in the Conservative Party say, yeah, it was a bad idea. And as I've always said, when it comes to rejoining, it's not going to be a single party issue on that campaign. It will be a multi party issue where we will have to join with sort of the Conservatives, people on the left. All the groups will have to come together with the pro EU stance and fight that battle together. So bear in mind that Tobias Ellwood was so far the only one. Haven't seen many two people from Labour come forward and say that, but eventually it will happen. Trust me. But we'll see. But we will see. Like I say, the polls ahead are in our direction. That is absolutely undeniable. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.